who I am? I'm a dude playing the dude disguised as another dude. Strength and honor.
Hello. My name is Yair Hamdayan. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Why so serious?
I could crush you, let go Wadham.
At my signal, unleash hell.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Well done today.
Thank you. I just got to record that once and be done with it.
You said
so
you
I don't
liked
have to
the variety. But
I
today's
do
a
like
good
mixing it up.
version today.
Yeah. So happy Tactical Tuesday, everyone. And I hope your week's off to a good start. I hope the news has not been too depressing on you.
My guess is a lot of people probably have given up on the news by now. They're like,
I hope so.
want to go and enjoy your day and not stress out with all of the confusion.
Yeah.
Good riddance to the the masses who are saying conflicting stuff on a daily basis.
Yeah. It's been, it doesn't stop. I mean, every day there's another contradiction. It doesn't slow down.
Yep.
Yep.
Right.
But today we wanted to talk about a few things. So some of the things we want to talk about is there's a new Manhattan project that's kind of been started by a bunch of scientists and billionaires to kind of filter through the data that's coming in to kind of check that. Underreporting of the coronavirus deaths possibly. Then there's the new test, that the plasma test at home.
The
antibody test
Yep.
at home. That's what we're going to be able to do. And then this, they're starting to understand more of what's killing people from the coronavirus, which it appears that it's hypoxia, but they don't know what's causing the hypoxia, which is scary that they don't know.
Yeah, and yesterday we talked about this blood clotting issue and strokes.
Yeah, there just seems to be so much stuff they don't know
It certainly
about.
seems like, with all the comparisons to the flu, it certainly seems like coronavirus has some very creative symptoms and symptoms that you would not typically think of, especially not anything that we see with the flu. So that's some significant differences right there.
Yeah.
And just some, and it doesn't seem to be across the board that standard symptoms, but there's pockets of people who have like these bizarre things that are happening to them as a result of this. No explanation.
Yeah. And then the other thing, being that it's Tactical Tuesday, I wanted to touch on two subjects today. One, I wanted to touch on, concealed carry versus open carry. And then I wanted to talk on some women's self-defense issues with you. Again, you're watching Live Tactical by Trident Shield. This is your one-stop shop for everything preparedness and everything you need to know to protect yourself, your family, your loved ones, your community, your church, your organization. I'm Jason Perry, the CEO and founder of Trident Shield, former Navy SEAL, former Boston SWAT, former executive protection specialist, as well as corporate security expert. And this is...
I am Lauren Perry, co-owner of Trident Shields. I do a lot of our training videos as the smiley face for the camera and a lot of our content development. And I translate him for you.
Yes, she takes my grunts and groans of caveman speak and translate it into common speak.
Exactly.
Which is thank God she's got a bachelor's in science and animal behavior, because I'm just one step away from that.
Oh, no, give yourself way more credit. The positive clicker training works wonders on him, though.
What's the reward?
Chicken parm. Chicken parm? What are you talking about? You know
Chicken
that.
parm does work very well on me, by the way.
Cheesy poofs.
Oh, I love me some cheesy poofs.
Anything with cheese.
Yeah.
Anything with cheese.
I'm a cheese junkie. But so let's get started on first getting people caught up on the news. You know, there appears, I found this on Fox News, basically a Harvard professor, 2 billionaires, and then a Nobel Prize winner, Michael Rosbash, who's a neuroscientist, as well as Stuart Schreiber, who's a chemical biology professor at Harvard, are basically part of this think tank. They're calling it a Manhattan Project, which is the project that was started where we took the biggest and best minds, or the brightest minds in the free world, to try to beat, Hitler to a nuclear bomb. So, and they're basically trying to fact check and filter through all the garbage and the contradictory information, because I'm glad somebody smart realized that we were making idiots of ourselves every day.
Yeah, I mean, so the question, as with everything else, is what are their biases? From what perspective might they be coming right now? And can we trust that they are going to be evenly looking at all of this data on all ends of the spectrum of how people have been putting this information out? Or are they going to also pick and choose some things to support some sort of their own opinions about this? So hopefully they're coming in from a neutral stance. But just because they say that that's their goal, I think we're going to have to look at their results. Have to look at who, as well.
I've also, a couple friends of mine have been posting some troubling things on the internet, on Facebook, about, us sending money to this Wuhan lab back in, Obama sent money to this Wuhan, like millions of dollars to this Wuhan lab back in 2015.
Okay.
And that was under Fauci and blah, blah, just some more twisted conspiracy stuff things. That's just giving it more legs. Maybe it's true. I don't know. And then just some sketchy stuff, man. And then Trump actually talked about it during his press conference and made sure he brought it up. Who was president during that time? Obama. That's right. Obama was the president at the time when we gave the Wuhan lab where this came from money.
Are they trying to make any connection with this?
They're saying it's under investigation.
That this was a U.S. virus that got over to China, and that
I've heard it said that this was a whatever the hell patented mean, a U.S. patented virus that they're saying was modified in China in that Wuhan lab, and then the theory is it accidentally got out from there.
Right.
But I mean, this thing is just so gnarly, man. It's crazy that there's, when I mean crazy, I'm not calling them crazy. It just seems, unbelievable that there's a lot of people who think this is a big deal, and then a lot of people who think it's absolutely nothing. Yeah. I mean, how do you marry those two? How do we square that?
Well, I think, so the numbers are one thing. And so right now, I think generally people can agree that the death count is a lot lower than initial models, including models that attempted to account for social distancing and measures like that. And we're still, obviously we have a lot of deaths, but it's a lot smaller than what we originally thought. So some people are just looking at the numbers and they're like, see, it's not that bad. And then we get, this information about the blood clots and the strokes and this, what you just talked about, the silent hypoxia and the bizarre and kind of extreme symptoms that this causes. And so we're looking at the manner in which people are dying, and it's
right. And there's inconsistencies, right? Like some are dying one way, some are dying another way.
But my point being, I think some people are taking it very seriously because of the kind of extreme symptoms and like what it's doing to the person that kills them, in the manner that it kills them.
Right.
And so does how the person dies, whether it's crazier or potentially a more painful death, outweigh, trying to articulate my point here. With the flu, I mean, we have high numbers of flu deaths too, but that's not like a dramatic way to die, or as how it's described.
Right. It's pretty much a known entity. It's been around. You get pneumonia and you die.
Right. So are people taking it more seriously because the deaths
so
are more
strange.
dramatic?
Yeah. Well, and that people are there and they're fine, and then they're not.
But
in a
still,
second.
if the numbers come out to be the same, doesn't matter the manner in which they died. I think
Yeah,
that's the point.
I don't know. And then you take this with the clotting and the strokes that are happening for 30 and 40-year-olds and everything else, and it just seems that it's this never-ending, complex monster that's out there that I don't know, man. Depending on which camp you're in, it's either nothing or everything.
Right. Yeah. And so we were, we saw a video just before we started about, she's a nurse practitioner, I believe, but she was speaking on behalf of her friend. And her friend, it sounds like, volunteered to go in as a nurse in the New York City hospital system for this. And she didn't want to speak out directly and put her name out with this information because she's in the place that she's essentially whistleblowing. So she asked her friend to report this and was talking about just the incredible mismanagement that's going on with patients.
The word murder was dropped around a lot.
That it's essentially neglect in how they are treating them, or not treating them. They're not going into rooms nearly as often as they should, so patients aren't being assessed properly. It sounds like they're rushing to intubate when they shouldn't intubate.
Yeah,
and the intubations.
My take was that they were rushing to intubate so they could sedate them. There's no one there to advocate them, and whether they live or die, just kind of on their own. So
taking extreme measures, and everyone's been saying, once you go on the intubator, it's
a ventilator. You're not coming off.
Yeah, you don't come off. And she's saying that an open system like you'll probably know these systems better than I do. The CPAP and the BiPAP, that's the right term, would be more effective, but they're not being used because they're open systems, which they fear would then spread the virus, versus the closed system of the ventilator, which is much more extreme than many patients are needing. Right. But they're going that step, and a lot of patients are struggling because of going on that when they didn't really need to go on that. And so she was highlighting just with these rules right now that patients who coming in for COVID, they're not allowed to have family. And we all know in any circumstance in the hospital that having someone there to advocate for you
is a must.
Because a lot of times that they're not going to
always
take your best interests.
No.
And with this, when they are overwhelmed, underprepared, confused, and they're just kind of treating the masses, having that advocacy is extra important. But people are going in there alone, and we have family members who are saying that they thought that their loved one was okay, and then they get this phone call that your loved one is going to die in the next hour, and just no one there to speak up and say, do not do that to my loved one.
Yeah, you got to understand that in medicine and in law, they're basically the two professions on earth where you're allowed to practice. Mm-hmm. You don't execute, you don't do it, you practice. Well, when you practice, there's a certain amount of mistakes are expected. Mm-hmm. And I have personally seen this in hospitals where they mess up and they cover up all the time, whether it be amputating the wrong leg or they've killed people. Mm-hmm. And when you have someone, I saw them kill a hero. Mm-hmm. I was working as doing my paramedic rotations as required by the National Registry paramedic, paramedic board, whatever. I was in New York City in one of the hospitals there, and a housing cop off duty intervened on a domestic that was happening in a project, got shot in the stomach several times, and, hailed a hero, this, that, TV cameras, mayor, the whole spiel. I'm watching I'm there, with the anesthesiologist, observing and, doing the intubations, all these things that they're talking about right now, the intubations that with the ventilators and all that stuff. And the machines go in there and, they're doing all the different surgeries and all that stuff. And then, everything's going well. He's expected to make it. like they've closed everything up. And then in comes a teaching doctor with a bunch of residents, and like literally he does an anatomy session on this hero where 4 people get up to their strangers who just came in the room, future doctors are in there and like, yeah, reach around, feel this, feel that, feel this, feel that. And I'm looking at the machine. I don't know any better. And the numbers are adjusting and they're going down, they're going down. And then after all that stuff, they go back in, or they rotate after 20 minutes of doing all these things in this hero. Like if there's one freaking person you're not going to do this on,
kidding.
it shouldn't be this guy.
Yeah.
And they all go out. The surgeon finishes sewing up. As he's finished sewing up, and they're basically like high-fiving on the surgery, he looks over at the machine. He says, how long has that been that way? And the nurse anesthetist said, oh, it just got that way. And I said, no, it's been that way a long time. And then you could see the wound rise, and he bled out inside because someone nicked something. Do you think they ever said that? No. So instead, they had called the wife and said, meet him up in recovery. And the mayor was heading up there, and then he crashed and died right there on the table.
That's so sad.
And that happens all day, every day.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, humans are fallible.
Yeah.
They make mistakes, they do things. But that is why you need a champion there to keep people honest.
Well, and I mean, there's... In that case, I mean, that's an operating, even if you have champions, there's nothing that would have stopped that other than denying, not approving.
Yeah, no one's, what I tell.
The teaching hospital setting and saying, I don't approve them using me for educational purposes.
No students on me.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell everybody with myself.
Yeah.
And for my guys in the SEAL team, if one of them got injured and we went to the hospital, I don't care. No teaching on my guy.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
My grandfather lost his leg to negligence. He had a vein, put into his, transplanted from, I want to say his butt into his leg. He had diabetes, whatever. And when he was doing a follow-up, just walked in, it's supposed to be a 10-minute follow-up. The doctor/surgeon grabbed the scab, pulled it, ripped the whole vein right out, and they ended up amputating his leg an hour later.
Yeah, I remember your mom was describing, because she was there.
Yeah.
And she was describing it to me. She was just like, it was like a geyser, like as soon as he pulled
this
out.
They panicked, didn't know what to do, and that was negligence, and they should have sued the crap out of him.
Yeah.
They didn't know any better.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't know any better, right? So... anyways,
so that's with this whole thing when you're not allowed to be there. And so this nurse who was giving this video account of what's going on in New York, she was suggesting that if there's a medicine that you're wanting to try, I mean, this hydroxychloroquine or something that most of these hospitals are just not even attempting, if there's something that you can list as that they were on this medication before and that you demand for it to be continued in the hospital setting. I don't know the ropes on how actually to go about that, but that was something that she did articulate, that if you can put down that it's a medication that they needed or that they've used before or anything like that, that the hospital would then have to continue it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so scary. And what they're doing that I found was interesting, what she said, which makes a lot of sense, is they're pressuring people to give consent to put them on the ventilator. So now they've got a 1,000% compliant patient who doesn't know what's going on around them.
Yeah. So scary.
I mean, what in the hell is that?
She was going, she's a nurse herself, and she was going off on, she was saying that, all of these people that were clapping and cheering our healthcare workers and calling them heroes. And she said there's a lot of good ones out there that deserve that. But there's a lot of people out there who are
monsters,
willfully enabling this negligent care, or in the word as she's calling it murder, that's a big word to throw around in this case. But, she referenced, I guess there is some very well-respected doctor, I think ICU doctor, who put out a video on YouTube saying very similar things that I haven't tracked that down, but just kind of blowing the whistle on what's going on and the care, and that things could be going way better than they are, but that not much effort's being made into changing how they're caring for this. And YouTube pulled his video. And so now we get into the whole censorship thing, and we've gone off on China for, they censored that doctor who originally blew the lid on what was going on over there back in the end of 2019. And
here we are doing
have
the
our
same
social
thing.
media doing the same exact thing. And so they're saying, they're
and
trying
directing us to where? The World Health Organization, which has been wrong on everything.
Well, and then there's this other video that you might have seen it by now. There's those 2 private practice California doctors who have made a viral video with their version of the data saying that we should end lockdowns immediately, that this isn't as big of a deal, the deaths don't, add up to anything. And their video was pulled down from YouTube as well. And yes, because it's not the popular opinion or the opinion that goes along with the government. That's so dangerous,
man. It's so damn dangerous, and it just makes all this social media feel so dirty. You really feel like you're being manipulated 100% of the time, which just feeds the conspiracy theories even more.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? And then you start doubting reality when you're like, man, because I couldn't believe it when Facebook admitted it and Fox reported on it, that they're like, yeah, if we think that you've, gotten some information that we don't agree with, we're going to funnel you to the WHO.
Yeah. Funneling is one thing, but completely removing a video. And
it wasn't like they were cussing. Video. It was an hour educational video.
They're professionals, but they came out with an opinion that was against what we're supposed to be believing right now. And so that certainly makes you sit back a little bit. And people have been able to articulate, other doctors have come out and, spoken their opinions against what this video was saying, about interpretations of the data. And
let the ideas out.
These studies in California and New York, that the data is being extrapolated to be representative of the entire state. Mm-hmm. And we have people saying that, no, really, the people that were tested as part of these studies are not representative of the entire state, because generally the people that are being tested are the ones that are already sick. So it's, of course, you're going to have a bigger positive number than you'll likely find statewide. So there's people who've been able to articulate a counter argument to these videos or to these other opinions. And that's a good debate. That's something, but
that's how you have to handle those.
And that's not suspicious. And then you let people form their own opinions. But to pull it down then gives it way more credibility than it might deserve.
Yeah, and exactly, and it just makes it looks so underhanded and so dirty. It's like, let the ideas go out there and let the better idea win.
Yeah, but
let he who can articulate themselves the clearest with the best data win.
Well, and I immediately, when I was hearing about these videos coming down from YouTube, from doctors who were trying to express an opinion. The opinion on data is one thing. A from the front lines account of what is going on is kind of that's a different topic. But for both of those things to be pulled down, I was like, and we got so mad at China for doing the same thing, and here we are.
Yeah, well, and what a surprise! The social media industries that are complicit in censorship in China are now a part of what's going on here.
Yeah, so
we've seen this where they stifle conservatism and they censor conservative thoughts and ideas and speakers, and then let the most outrageous liberal left hate talk speech out there just go.
Right.
Like every time you look at the censorship, it's only one way. It's on the right. And now here we are again. It's broken down into left and right again. And where do you think the Silicon Valley is landing?
Sure. Yeah, but it's just like, again, for a national healthcare issue to now have broken down so neatly on political lines, and to clearly see the forces of bias and politics come in on something in areas where it shouldn't. It's very frustrating, and it
just shows that
dangerous.
Everything is political now.
Yeah.
Like literally everything is
Yeah,
political.
it's so damaging.
When medicine becomes politics, everything is. But I guess medicine always is if you look at the abortion issue.
Yeah.
And if you look at right to death,
Vaccines.
vaccines.
Yeah, which, I mean, that's...
I mean, this whole thing is going to turn into a vaxxer, anti-vaxxer
well,
thing,
it is.
which it
I mean,
already
because
is.
there's talks about mandatory vaccinations and,
Yep.
is it, if they come up with develop this vaccination, are they going to require that people take it, and kind of what's the line on that? That kind of ties to another article talking point that I had of that the WHO has come out. They've said that there's no evidence, which, that's been a popular phrase throughout. There's no evidence, but they're saying there's no evidence that there is immunity from having antibodies for COVID. So if you've had it, the assumption, because of how the flu and other viruses generally operate, that you can't get it unless the strain mutates a lot. But they're now saying that based on what they've been seeing, and obviously we're still studying it, so it's not conclusive, but they're saying don't jump to conclusions that you will have immunity. But then someone made the interesting point that if that's the case, that this doesn't provide immunity, yet they're moving forward, how would the vaccine work when a vaccine operates kind of on the same... My understanding of it is that it's basically like giving you a little dose of actually having the virus. You have kind of deactivated the antigens that then help your body create the antibodies to give yourself the immunity, like as if you had actually had it. But if people don't get immunity from having this, then what's the vaccine going to do?
Yeah, and then maybe it'll be like the flu vaccine, which every year they guess, and sometimes they get it right, and sometimes they don't get it right.
But
right, they do one strand, and it might be 32 strands
later. So the question is whether if it stays stable, which a lot of, I mean, did you see was there a report that there's conflicting reports on whether it's mutated a lot or not?
Yeah.
Yet again,
imagine
there's
conflicting reports on COVID.
Right. What a surprise. But so whether if it's the exact same strain and whether they're still suspicious if it gives you immunity or not, or if it's just that it's mutated some. So.
Yeah, the more this goes on and the more this confusion goes on, the more I'm starting to think that, give people the ability to, self-isolate, do what they want to do, kind of do big boy rules and open up the society. I don't see any other way. I mean, we can't stay shut down forever.
Well, there are still some medical professionals saying keep it locked down until the vaccination's developed. And that then leads to the whole other, that's now Big Pharma who's pushing this to make all the money. And, and then there's been the connections between the CDC and Big Pharma. And I don't
find the death rate high enough to warrant killing the entire world's economy.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's the difference on this, right? So if, it's terrible. Every life is terrible and every loss is a tragedy and everything is, and we don't know what we don't know yet, right? But my thought is that, you pass anti-discrimination laws for people who want to do the right thing. Meaning that if people want to self-isolate and want to do things and work from home, you got to make sure that they can do that, responsibly. Yeah. And then, you let people roll the dice and, and see what happens. I mean, what's going to happen then? If it was the worst thing ever, we're going to see spike in cases, the hospitals would get overwhelmed, and then we'll have to do something different. If it's what the people who are on the minimalist side say, and everyone already had it already, then we won't see that big of a change.
Right.
Right. But the main thing is you have to let people isolate and you have to do those things. And you have to allow people to be able to have their mask and their and hand sanitizer and all these other things so that, either that or we're going to have an entire percentage of our population that is on a new welfare, that they're at home because they're at high risk and we just have to take care of them. And they live in their bubble.
Have you seen anything on whether the PPE supplies have started to catch up on themselves?
No,
yet?
I have a big story that I want to see, that I wanted to talk about. And thank you for bringing that up because I forgot to copy it. The evil empire, and I posted this on our Guardian page, China, the evil empire, literally the most evil state alive today in the world. State. Well,
Gotcha.
state government, I'm not United States,
Right.
but, country, just nationalized all of their N95 mask makers.
What does that mean?
That means that they're now government assets, and they canceled all the millions of orders coming to the U.S., and they're keeping them there.
Oh.
Those companies no longer can sell to anyone that China doesn't want them to, so they're holding on to them all.
Wow.
So there was a big firm in Chicago, I don't know, big organization. I don't remember if it was a hospital or if it was a distributor that said that all of millions of masks that were on order were canceled yesterday.
Wow.
Guess who's the number one maker of N95 masks in the world? China.
Yikes. So now we're going to be set back even more.
Yeah, well, now, I don't think we need ventilators anymore. We're now the number one producers of ventilators. We need to get back to N95 masks.
Mm-hmm.
Stop making these ridiculous paper ones that are useless. Let's start making real respirators. Let's, maybe this is going to be something like, hey, like your winter coat now. Everyone owns like a really high-end reusable like mask, like those gym things, the O2 restrictors that I've seen some stuff out there saying that some of those work. Mm-hmm. I've seen some ads from some, entrepreneurs or some companies out there who are trying to adapt to this and make it the right way. I mean, maybe we're all going to have our ventilator in our car, like with our flashlight and our first aid kit.
Yeah. Gosh, that'd be so strange. But if we get there,
and the person who makes the first one that is, comfortable, reusable,
fashion
whatever.
Forward.
Yeah. Maybe make them look a little badass or something. Right. I don't know. But yeah, the evil empire is on the march. They are not our friends. They never were our friends. And that's going to cost lives. They just killed people with that decision. Wow. And did your computer just die over there?
No, it goes to sleep when it's not plugged in.
Oh.
One thing that crossed my mind in thinking about that video that we watched, the kind of the whistleblower from New York and saying that people are going on ventilators in quantities that don't need to be on ventilators yet. And so it's just interesting because there was such an outcry that there was a shortage of ventilators and people were dying because they weren't going on.
Well,
them,
that was
that people are being put on them too much.
Well, I think early on, again, you could only be judged on the information you knew at the time.
Sure.
Right. Reports is that people were dying in Italy because there was not enough ventilators. Mm-hmm. Because why? Because these people are dying of hypoxia, right? And then you have the people who come in who are really sick and they're gasping for air and they feel like they're suffocating. But the really strange ones are the ones that we're seeing where people just fall over and go, where they're, you should have an O2 sat of around 97%.
Yes.
Around 90, if you dip below 90, you get an altered level of consciousness, meaning you might be confused, a little dizzy, whatever. They have people walking in that are testing positive for COVID who look normal at 80%.
Yes. Yeah.
And those are the ones they're getting the sign to get put into a coma, to get put into a medically induced coma, to get put on a ventilator.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. And so now one of the things they're talking about doing is, coming up with O2 sat devices, which is just a thing that fits over your finger. So as your levels drop, you know when to come in.
Right. Okay.
But that is the part of the stuff of this that's scary, is the fact that people who are otherwise asymptomatic, they're not having that drive. Their body is not kicking on that sensor that you're suffocating, and they're silently suffocating without even knowing because their O2 is dropping.
That's crazy.
Right, so they might get lethargic. They might get a lot of things. Now, if they move, they get short of breath, but they're not. It's not like when you do the set 100 squats or sprints or anything like that, they're not doing that. It's, it's just really weird, and they don't understand it. Like, imagine that, the clot thing yesterday, and now this part they don't understand.
Wide array of symptoms that this thing, like all systemic. It's just so weird. Like the toes.
Yeah.
And it's
the toes thing. You want to get into that?
I would have to. I would have to refresh my memory on what they said, but they were saying that.
Blue toes.
About if that one might
one of the
be
symptoms
one of your
now.
First symptoms if you notice something off with your
poorly
toes.
perfused toes.
Yeah, because of the oxygen.
Blue toes, and some people have really big toes. Or a big toe.
I was going to say you were generous by calling it toes.
Some people might have disproportionate toes.
I have great balance, guys. I have great balance. Let's just leave it there. We'll just leave it there. The first thing that he checked when baby B was born
was to see if her toes were
baby. Did she get mom's toes? True story. True story.
I just don't know. I haven't seen a baby picture of your toes to know if your toes came out normal or if they mutated over time.
I don't know. You'd have to ask my mom. Because I was going to say B's toes, she does not have my toes yet. Praise God.
She doesn't. Because, I mean, like, Lauren
won't have great balance.
Lauren's shoe shopping. Oh, my God.
It's a painful experience.
Yeah.
That toe
she
bumps
should be
me
a
up
6. She should be like a 6 in her toes. And now she's like a 9 or a 10 with her big toe. Unless the toe can fit out somewhere. If the toe can fit out somewhere, she's good to go.
We're going down this road, aren't we? Okay. Like they do those, like your wedding photographer, they do like all the artsy fartsy pictures. Yeah. And so usually they
do everyone's
feet. And so like the groom's feet and the bride's feet and her. Throw that one out because it shows my big toe hanging over the ends of my shoes because I couldn't find any shoes. It was
her
so
toes
bad.
hanging over the
so
shoe.
Bad. Oh my God, this is embarrassing. Anyways.
But you're really good with that toe. Can't you pick stuff up with it?
I mean, it's useful.
Yeah.
So if I ever lose my hands, hopefully I don't. I can make do.
Right. Holy smokes.
Oh my God, this is a bad tangent.
I'm not editing this
I know
out.
you're not.
You guys are getting the toe conversation.
I know you're not.
Blue toes. I was waiting for her all week to bring up the blue toes, and that was going to segue into that. So thank you.
You're welcome. It'll be really obvious, I guess, if I get coronavirus.
Yes. You will have a big purple toe. Now we're going to do an episode where we show your toe.
Heck no.
Oh, yeah.
You're
I'm going to have
make
to.
it your mission to
My mission
find
is
a
going to
toe?
be to get it and I'll put it on Instagram. Like
I'm
Mrs.
not sure. I'm
Shields'
still
toe.
not convinced that it's a big toe, more so that my other toes are really small.
No.
Or
They are.
some combination of the two.
No. It is like a thumb. I mean, it's
Everyone has a big toe.
not.
My little toes are little. So maybe make fun of my little toes.
No, it's your
My
big
second toe should be way longer than it is.
Then you would truly be in like a size 12 wide.
No, because then it would just match my big toe. All right, let's talk about something useful. People are like, oh my God, stop talking about her toes.
Anyways, all right. All right.
Good?
Yeah, I'm good. I just know how horrified you are right now.
It could be worse.
Yeah.
It could be worse.
Totally.
Let's not explore that.
All right, so let's get into tactical.
I'll just throw out one more story that will potentially impact all you parents out there. Is that Trump yesterday was talking about encouraging some states to consider opening schools back up prior to the end of school year so that some kids could go back for a couple weeks, being partly in that it will be hard for the economy to restart if parents are still having to be home with their kids. And so we're going to be kind of running into that conflict of interest. but most people are saying, what are you talking about? It's too soon to consider that.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that pans out. And I mean, I was surprised. My sister's in Massachusetts and her husband's a teacher. And I was surprised by how long it took for Massachusetts. They only decided for their schools to be closed through the end of the year, like last week or something like that.
Really?
Whereas most states had declared pretty early on and just said, we're
I know
kind of giving up
Harvard
for the
was
year.
like one of the first.
Yeah, because they were trying to make plans. And they were like, at some point, I think as of up to last week, they had potentially set a date to go back that was like in 2 weeks. And then they finally came out and said, okay, no, we'll throw in the towel on this one.
Right.
But
Well,
I was really surprised by that.
I don't see what the point is to come back for a couple weeks, unless they're going to keep it open through the summer to try to catch up and get back on schedule, which I'm open for.
I think they were talking about some special services for the kids and stuff.
Wouldn't that be great? Maine would be empty with no vacationers.
I don't think that's
We're moving to Maine, and we're hopefully no tourists make it to Bangor.
That's probably not a tourist destination other than Stephen King's house.
Well, but they do drive by to go to Arcadia, or do they all take Route 1 down low? You don't know. You've been there.
My guess is that a lot of people take the Route 1
Really?
way, but probably depends on where they're coming from.
Well, Route 1's pretty because you get to go up the
prettier,
coast.
and you get the coastal stops.
Yeah,
and
you get,
stuff.
Camden and all that stuff. Which I'm a big fan of Camden. So, so let's get into Tactical Tuesday. I know you guys have been wanting to. I mean, I know this is primarily Tuesday and Thursdays are our heaviest days because of the tactics and stuff we talk about. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today was open carry versus concealed carry.
Mm-hmm.
So first, for those of you who don't understand what the difference is, open carry is carrying a firearm on you that is obvious for everyone to see.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see those idiots walking around in full battle gear like they're in Iraq or Afghanistan, or they're on the front lines walking around the streets of wherever, that's open carry. There are other versions of open carry where they dress normal and you can just see a sidearm on their side.
Mm-hmm.
That's open carry, and I think there is a place for it. A lot of people hate on it always.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a hater on it always. I'm fine with places where it fits culturally, being in there and having it. Like when Trident Shield was a gym, I open carried all the time, and I encouraged everyone in there to open carry all the time. One, it was a cultural thing.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it's kind of hard to conceal carry in gym shorts.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it was just to let the cops in there know, and everyone in there who was working out in there, that we had their back. Right? So that's one type of it, but I don't agree with doing that in mixed company where it may cause stress to other people. I think it's far more effective for us to be the invisible gray men who are out there, concealed carrying amongst the sheep, protecting the herd without scaring the bejesus out of them. Why? Because if we don't scare the bejesus out of them, we get to keep our gun rights and we get to keep driving on, and they can see that we have no effect on them.
Is there any potential thought process on the people who do open carry? I think some people probably do it to prove a point.
Yeah.
Be like, see, I can carry my gun. Is there any of it that might be that if someone was coming in or had some bad intentions, that if they saw and knew that there was other people there with a gun,
sure,
i.e. that it was being open carried, that they might be less likely to start?
Sure. My dad is in this camp. He's a former felon, so he can't own a firearm. And when he sees somebody open carrying, he thanks them for open carrying and for protecting him.
Mm-hmm.
I think, human nature would tell you that if you were getting ready to shoot up a store, and there happened to be like 4 dudes open carrying in there, you'd probably wait till they left before you started.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be common sense. Then there's the tacticians who are looking, who are like, the supervillain is like, okay, I know that guy is wearing a gun hat. He must be concealed carrying. So I'm going to shoot him first. And then that person over there, his belt is a little thick. So I bet you he's concealed carrying. And I'm going to shoot him second. And then they go, whatever.
Well,
which there is some thought to that, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to go in and if I was a bad guy, I would prioritize down the list who was my biggest threats. And those are the people I'd take out. Right. So there is that. But I think in most cases it's going to be, there's some certain things to think about when you're open carrying. When you're open carrying, you have now broadcast to the world you have a gun and you provided a weapon for somebody to take it from you. So you have to be responsible. You have to have your head on a swivel and you can't let somebody else take it from you.
Well, and what I've seen posts kind of hating on open carriers and saying that a lot of people have there's a lot of uneducated people who carry guns, concealed or open. And they're like, you have your gun there. It's open carry, so everyone knows. And you have your draw hand or the hand that would be able to reach that full of all the stuff that you're buying. So you wouldn't be, someone could come up and grab that and you have your hands totally full, not able to defend it or stop someone from taking it. And they're like, you've just now given someone else a weapon more than your ability to actually use it. Right.
And there is an articulation. I mean, that is a point. That's a valid point that they've articulated there. And that is, if, like cops are always taught, don't carry anything in your gun hand. You might need to get your gun. And you've announced yourself as somebody who is a threat, right? Or to a bad guy, or you've announced someone that you are a vector for them to get a firearm to do something. So if you're going to do that, carrying 10 different things in your hands is not the time to do that. It's time to use a cart.
Yeah.
And the whole time you're in your cart, you're weapon side away from everyone unloading your cart, and you have to be responsible. That is what responsible open carry looks like.
Yeah.
All right. Then the high speed people out there, and they're rightly thinking, if you don't know I have one and I can hide that I have one and I don't telegraph I have one, that's better. Now, you obviously can carry a bigger firearm open carry than you can concealed carry for most of us because it's a bigger print. You don't only have so many places you can hide it depending on your build and all those things. So there you can carry a bigger firearm in from that. We, in our active shooter workplace violence courses, have shown people carrying like 17 different firearms, including long guns down their leg and shotguns and all kinds of different things. So again, you can conceal carry. The people who have the hardest time concealed carrying are people in tight clothes because tight clothes print is when you can see the outline of the firearm around the clothing, right? But people who are wearing really baggy clothes or wearing coats or jackets when it's whatever, they are people who could be carrying, right? So responsibly, I say conceal carry if you're going to conceal carry. The problem is most people in most ranges don't facilitate training appropriately from concealed carry.
Okay.
Right? Meaning, getting down, lifting up your shirt, doing that. I mean, how many people do you see at the range doing that? Not enough. Right?
Is that not allowed at
some of them probably not. They're just sitting up there static, and they're allowed to have their gun on their table, and they're allowed to do that, and they're just doing marksmanship training.
Because just the risk of people
the risk of someone getting caught up and pulling and so there's a level of training there that you need to be able to do, and you have to practice getting to it, right? And you're going to find out that carrying a gun sucks. It's, as you know, Lauren, right? Like you got your skinny jeans. I would not say, unless you're dressed for comfort, which is when you most of the time are in your sweatpants. Yes. But the second you put on your jeans, and I would not say you ever wore baggy jeans probably once in your life.
Well, so for me, it's more the top than the jeans. Because I wear it kind of a little bit behind center of my hip on my right side.
Right.
And, I'm not very wide front to back, and so even wearing our T-shirts, our Trident Shield T-shirts, which is not form-fitting,
right?
The handle of the gun, the
grip
of the gun the butt of it sticks out behind my back, and so
Right.
I print very easily.
Right.
And so
Well, you're
that's
skinny, you're ripped, and
even
the only-
wearing baggy clothes. So your points, your point being, I wear tight pants or whatever, but it's the shirts for me that give away more than my pants.
Really? So you think that if you wore a medium and you wore it over that, it would still show?
Yeah, with any kind of movement. Yeah.
Well, movement's the other thing, right? So there is regular movement, and then there's like, okay, if I bend over or if I do this motion, I'm gonna.
Just walking, you would be able to tell in me in just walking.
And then we need to work on your concealed carry skills, because there may be a less comfortable way to wear that, to where it does nothing.
Maybe so.
So, anyways, because you're lucky, you're ripped. You're ripped. Skinny people with baggy clothes can hide the world. Us preppers out there carrying a little extra weight for the apocalypse so that, we don't need to eat all the time. We have a harder time concealing. Just saying.
I will draw the line at, I don't need to be skin tight, people, but I will draw the line at a certain amount of baggy.
Right.
I think that's reasonable.
She's skin tight, just not painted on.
Oh, come on now. How many times have I worn your sweatpants?
Well, that is a totally different thing, and I don't understand why you couldn't and a lot of guys frown on pocket carry. I love pocket carry because I can carry everywhere. The more you can carry, the better it is. All right. And, and I know that there's a lot of really good instructors out there who are all about getting your gun out and putting a shot on target in less than a second and all that, and that's definitely one way to look at it. And whereas me, I'd rather have it on me all the time in every situation. And if it's in my pocket and my draw is a little slow, whatever, hopefully I'm going to be able to get to cover. I'm going to be able to choose. I'm going to be able to hide what I'm doing, whatever. I'm not going into a Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, Johnny Ringo standoff, right? I'm going into, like the other day when I intervened on a situation, I saw it happening from across the parking lot, and I was able to set myself up a success.
You did not have to shoot anybody.
I did not have to shoot anyone. But I was able to.
It would have been a bear spray situation.
Yes.
To start, anyways.
Yes.
Didn't even come to that, though.
No. Bear spray is very effective at discouraging things.
Yes. But fortunately, he made better decisions than he was seeming
Yeah.
to start. To.
Picking on an old dude is not cool.
No.
So anyways. So concealed carry versus open carry. It's really, I would always recommend concealed carrying. There are isolated cases where open carrying, I think, is palatable. It's your right to do some in a lot of places. Where we're going, thank the dear Lord Jesus, concealed carry is constitutionally guaranteed in the state of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, in the region that we're going to. There's more states out there. Texas is not one of them. I in the Guardians group today, I always love poking fun at Texas because they're the biggest loudmouths on the planet, and I love them, and I love the people of Texas. I have a lot of good friends in Texas, but it takes them about 10 seconds or less to tell you they're from Texas when you meet someone. And they are the Patriot state and the freedoms of this, and they have some of the worst gun laws in the country. They're not New York, they're not Massachusetts, and they're not, California, but even here in Virginia, right? Virginia, which got all this bad rap. Texas, up until I think last year, if you walked into a Starbucks that posted the right sign, it was a felony. You were a felon for violating Starbucks' uniform policy, which is what it is in most other states.
Yep. Right?
So, Texas rains a lot of hate on a lot of different places, or Texans historically ran a lot of hate on a lot of places, with a lot of stuff, when I think a lot of them have lost their freedoms and they didn't even know it. Mm-hmm. Right? So, Bernie Sanders states has better gun laws than Texas.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Those Yankees up north that everyone makes fun of, 3 of the most northern states, right? Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine have way better gun laws than most southern states.
Yeah.
And that's Very interesting. So
I have a question for you about open carry
go ahead.
versus. So prior to my getting a concealed carry license,
Yeah.
I was not comfortable open carrying. That's just
Right.
not, that wasn't an appearance I wanted, that I wasn't
Right.
comfortable enough with guns at that point. Would you say for people who don't have the ability to concealed carry legally, is it better to always open carry, or is it versus having a different weapon system?
I mean, I'd always recommend a firearm. And some people by age, they can't conceal carry. Like there's a 21 rule. So if you're 18 to 21, you have to open carry in some places. And it varies by state. So don't go on this exclusively. I mean, if you want to carry a firearm and that's all you got, you know, then that's all you've got. It's not, you're not going to be able to be under the radar. You're going to be on everyone's radar, and you're going to cause a scene in a lot of places you go, depending on where you live. I mean, you might be in Kansas where they are another constitutional concealed carry, but let's just say you're in Kansas and you're out in the middle of the boonies, everyone's going to expect you to have a firearm. You know, if you're in Alaska in the bush, I mean, there's stuff out there that'll eat you, right? Legitimately, you're not the apex predator in Alaska. Either the grizzly bears or the polar bears or the whatever, everything out there, mountain lions and everything else can get you. So, you know, that's that's why a lot of people do open carry, because they've lost the ability, or they can't get cleared to conceal carry.
Yeah.
So the next topic I wanted to talk about, and again, this is where I miss my live audience, because I know I'll be getting a lot of people sounding off about this.
Well, in the comments to this video, and we'll answer you there.
Yep. So I got a question for you. You know, being a former sheeple, being a former liberal, she's been outed. Yep, Lauren used to be a liberal, and then she actually was exposed to the truth.
Yeah. That's a different.
I'm outing her.
That's a different story. That and my toe. I'm just. Let's learn about Lauren episode.
So Lauren,
let's keep talking about my toe, huh?
Yeah. So what did you think of people who would, like, not the idiots pretending that they're in Afghanistan?
Yeah.
But if you saw somebody, you know, just carrying a pistol on their hip, would you think they were a cop, or would you think they were an idiot? What would you think, like, in rural Maine, if you saw someone carrying a firearm on their hip and jeans and a flannel shirt?
I'm not sure.
Probably
I would have had a strong opinion about it. I certainly wasn't to the point, like, I wasn't all in on the gun control stuff or anything there. I would say that I was neutral, uneducated on that. And
so
I'm not
the gun,
sure. I honestly, I can't tell you what back then, because I don't recall seeing
well, the
that.
first time you walked into Trident Shield, and
Well, that was an environment that I wasn't all that surprised.
Okay.
Because I knew who you were, and so knowing your background, it did not surprise me that you had that.
So, being
So I was
that,
immediately open to it.
right.
Anyways.
So then it's obvious, in as far as the liberal ideology that you used to ascribe to, gun control wasn't one of your passions.
No, I was just the environment girl.
Yeah, you were the environment girl.
Yeah.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Yep.
Save the whales.
So you were a one-issue voter, and it was that.
Why are we getting down? Why are we talking about politics right now?
Is there something else you'd like to talk about?
We were talking about self-defense, weren't we?
Oh, sure. What is it about self-defense you want to talk about?
Ask me a question.
No.
The gun stuff was relevant. This now is not.
Well, I just found that was pretty interesting. You know, I know that a lot of people out there, in particular in our audience, might be wanting to guide some of their family members to knowledge that might influence them into seeing the light.
I was not a crazy. But don't start being like, she was what?
You were not a crazy.
No, I was as I said, a neutral, uneducated, that I was not a strong Are you going to be surprised if I say that I didn't really speak out about any of my opinions or anything?
No.
That's just not how. So
Yep.
I was very open to other explanations and other viewpoints of things. It's just I was not into politics. I avoided the politics stuff. So
Right.
I never cared to really form a hard opinion about anything.
Well, you're one of the rarest types of people out there, meaning that you're willing to hear other ideas and change your own opinion based on what you hear, whereas too many of us today are not willing to engage in those ideas, to have our beliefs challenged and hear the other side to see if that's truly what we believe.
Well, I remember telling you, and who is the woman on Fox who left?
Megan.
Yeah. So I remember
Megan Kelly.
someone I was friends with on Facebook, a conservative, she would post clips of Megan
Kelly.
And I did know enough to be like, Fox bad, right? But I would watch these in the private of my own home
On her phone.
and I would be like,
Locked in the bathroom.
I'd be like, this makes sense.
Oh,
This makes sense.
what does this mean? I agree with what she's saying. Oh no.
So I was ready for some
Truth bombs.
expanding of viewpoints when I met you.
Yeah. Well, cool. Very cool. I just want to say that I think that, again, I want to solidify that, I admire people like you, and I think we really need to try to be more like you and to hear the other side and to have our beliefs challenged and be open to that, to see, to all sides, to be exposed to it. I mean, how do you know what you believe until you've been challenged on it?
Right.
Right. That's when you know if that's truly what you believe, because you've been given some options on it, right? So anyways, I think we're going to wrap it up with that. We'll get the women's self-defense portion on Thursday for Tactical Thursday.
Sure thing.
All right. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. May he give our leaders the wisdom to get us through these challenging times, and may he protect each and every one of us. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Try and chill out. Peace. Remember to like and comment below this video and subscribe to my channel for more great videos on coronavirus updates and how to protect yourself and your loved ones.